nobody really cares. Again, I think all my positivity comes from negativity, but nobody really cares that much about you. Nobody's looking. Just have fun because nobody really. The only person that's thinking about am I good enough is yourself. Nobody else is worrying about it, so just crack on.
Welcome to the Funny and Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Today's guest is a delightful soul. She has such a warmth about her. It's contagious. We had such a fun chat. It was so easy and free-flowing. Amy is so relaxed, funny, and a great conversationalist. Her insights are just wonderful. I was mesmerized. Amy's also coming to Melbourne very soon for the comedy festival, so check them out before they sell out. Links are in the episode notes. Also, before we get into it, I hope you enjoy this bonus episode. There may be a few multiple episode weeks coming up, so if you'd like to stay up to date with all the wonderful news and guests, subscribe to the pod and follow us on Instagram under Funny and Failure so you don't miss out on epic chats like these. Okay, let's get into it. Amy Gledhill is an award-winning stand-up comedian, actor, writer, and podcaster. She's the winner of the Edinburgh Comedy Awards 2024 Best Show for Make Me Look Fit on the Poster, which she's currently touring in Melbourne for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. She's also one half of the award-winning double act, The Delightful Sausage. After taking the UK by storm, Amy is nothing short of a comedy powerhouse, known for a unique blend of insightful observations and confessional anecdotes. She brims with a natural warmth and charm. Amy is the only artist ever to be nominated for the prestigious Edinburgh Comedy Award twice in the same year. She's been on shows such as The Jonathan Ross Show, The One Show, Pointless Celebrities, Stand Up Sketch Show, Alma's Not Normal, Would I Lie to You, Sex Education, Hypothetical, Guessable, Alan Davies, As Yet Untitled, plus plenty more. She was also commissioned by Channel 4 in 2024 to write a brand new comedy, Toads, in which she stars as Amber, a bride-to-be who gets cold feet on the morning of her wedding. She also co-hosts the hit podcast Northern News and will also be in the upcoming TV miniseries Runaway sometime next year. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about her love of crisps and ballroom dancing, winning awards, The Delightful Sausage and collaboration, a new detective role coming out, balance, toxic positivity, analyzing dreams, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny and Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. I believe that you are a very good ballroom dancer and you auditioned for the British team. I'd love to know what it did for your soul.
Oh, wow. You have gone deep on your research. Yeah. So I used to be, I thought that's what I was going to be. I always thought I was going to be a dancer, which feels absolutely crazy now. Because now I love sitting down and eating crisps more than anything else in the world.
Could you not do that with the dancing?
No, you have to stand up a lot more in dancing than you do
crisps?
writing and comedy. Less crisps.
Okay.
It's hell. I don't know why I ever thought I could manage it.
I'm sure there's still professional dancers that still have crisps. I like how that's like the thing that stopped you. Not yes, the sitting down, the standing up, all of that, but the crisps. I love it.
I would do anything for crisps. I think they're my favorite food, which is pathetic. I'm like an 8-year-old. They are my favorite food. What did it do for my soul? I still dream about dancing. So I have dreams where because the feeling, this is maybe silly, but the feeling of ballroom dancing, when it's going really well and you're sort of really in sync with this partner and you're just being led around the room by the music, it genuinely sort of feels a little bit like you're flirting. And I dream about that quite a lot. I don't really have dreams about stand-up or like a lot of colleagues have, and maybe you do, if you've got like a deadline or something, you start having anxiety dreams. I don't really get them, but I do have dreams, a lot of dreams about dancing. So maybe it's still in my body and my body's going, come on, crack some moves out.
Can you do it as like a hobby? Do you ever do it to just like let go?
I haven't. Because I stopped dancing for medical reasons, I suppose. I had some like knee problems. I think it's sad. So I don't even watch dancing on TV because I'm like sad about it. I guess it's like being told that you're like gluten intolerant, but you love bread. You probably just like wouldn't be around bread so much because it's sad.
Well, I still eat the bread, even though that I am as well. So how bad's your knee? Is it a thing that you can do every now and then, or you want to avoid it?
Oh, I could definitely do it now. It was just at the time I had to have these little operations on them, and then it sort of put you once you're out of training and stuff, it's no good. And then I really discovered my love of crisps, and also boys. I think because I was doing it when I was a sort of teenager.
Yeah,
I discovered boys and how fun all that is, and how fun underage drinking is. And then was like, I don't want to be training to do ballroom dancing. I want to be listening to rock music and snogging. So I probably could have got back into it, but then crisps and boys and booze.
you can do it all. I'm challenging you that we'll talk about what you're doing in a bit, but I reckon you can do it all. I want to hear about those dreams. So is it an exciting dream, or is it like, no, you're going to miss out on dreams? Oh, sorry, you're going to miss out on the actual dancing. Like, what type of dreams are they?
Do you know what? I don't know if this makes sense. I have a lot of dreams that are just, this sounds crazy, that are just like feelings.
Yeah,
there's no visuals.
That's what dreams are. You're supposed to go with. How a dream expert has explained to me, and I know that might sound a bit wacky, is that it's not about what you see, it's about what you feel in the dream. That's like the subconscious talking to you, or one way of looking at it. So the feelings is the most important aspect of the dream.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's right. Because used to be a bit worried that some of my dreams didn't have visuals, because I was like, am I blind in my subconscious? What's happening? What's happening there then?
That's hilarious.
I used to have dreams as well. Sorry, talking about dreams, I know isn't like
no. I think it's an insight into the soul dreams.
Okay, well, I used to have dreams, I haven't for a while, where I guess I'm like, again, no visuals, I guess I'm like a bowling ball, and I'm going down a course and just feeling like the different textures and like the different frictions.
Whoa. Of like, no, I think this is very interesting. I'm just trying to feel.
Come on, Michael, tell me about my bowling ball dreams. Come on, I've told you about my bowling ball dreams.
I think, what does the bowling ball represent to you?
What does it represent?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I never hit the pins. I'm just on like a constant track and going, oh, this bit's a bit bumpy. Smooth. This bit I'm going slow. This bit I'm going too fast. It must be life.
Yeah. Is it all at the same time, or you have different dreams where it's smoother than sometimes when it's less smooth?
All at the same time. Like I'm going through the different textures or whatever it would be.
Interesting. That does sound like a metaphor for life, the heights. How do you feel afterwards? Do you like have a feeling like resolve, or this feels good, or it is what it is?
I kind of just go, what was that? Why can't I have dreams where I'm flying? This is weird.
One day when you'll master it. And then the dreams with the dancing, or is there more feeling around the dancing as well?
Yeah, there's no storyline to it. It's more just but I do have visuals, but it's more just like the feeling of just being completely at ease and flowing around.
Ah.
Yeah, it feels nice.
It sounds like you need to do dancing.
I think I need to do dancing. Sorry, gotta go. Need to do dancing.
Honestly, I'd be so happy for you if that's what you got from this, because normally, like when I have like heavy dreams, it means I need to resolve something. But if you have this like lightness and this, it's like
Oh.
going back to it or embrace it, or like I've had some dreams where someone explained this to me, and I'm no expert as you can tell, but I had like a dream many years ago. I don't remember it fully, but like a tiger was trying to eat me, and it was like a nightmare. And it was a reoccurring dream, and it was about I used to work as an accountant, and it was representative of like the office. It made sense at the time. I don't remember. I know people are going to cringe, but it made sense to me. And it was like representative of the office, like eating me alive and not being like joyful. And then when I made the decision, I merged with the light. I know how wanky it is. I'm so sorry, everyone. And then I
No.
merged and I felt free, and it was like an amazing feeling. It was like
Oh my
embracing
God.
something within. Yeah.
And the tiger in your dream is gone?
I have had it, but for different things. But it's not like
Oh my
nightmares like
gosh.
they used to be.
I always dream, my nightmares are always about
Go on.
bulls and sharks. So there's one where I'm in a big, like, open plain. There's nothing as far as I can see except a glass corridor with a bull in it, and the bull's banging against the glass corridor. And there's like a little, like, arch in it where I have to go through the glass corridor, but the bull's trying to get out.
Interesting.
Over to you, Michael. What does that mean? What do I need to do? Dancing.
I,
Crisps.
I, I, I just think you need to dance with the bull. No,
Okay. Okay. Will do.
last thing on that, and then I'll get back into the ballroom. When you have those dreams with the bull, does it happen? Like what I've had to notice, because I used to write my dreams down, and it gave me more clarity in life. I don't do it
Okay.
anymore. But the key is I'm just cringing at myself. But the key is to have the diary next to your bed, because by the time you're like, oh, I remember that dream, and then you go to your phone, you've already forgotten it. So just writing it down as quickly as possible, then you notice patterns. So that's the only thing. Like with the bull, it might be
Oh.
like a manifestation or something at work that you're not tackling, or you need to like, there's a
Ooh.
bully. I'm just throwing things out there that aren't in
Yeah.
relation,
A
but you'll notice a
bully.
pattern.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
it.
this is great. This is
So
great.
back, I'm glad that we spoke about this. I have not spoken about dreams in a very long time, and I'm going to get my own dream journal thanks to this conversation. So back to the dancing. So you thought this would be your career, then obviously you had
Mm.
the health issues. Was that quite a hard pill to swallow, or no, because you had the crisp, the boys, and all of that stuff? It was easy.
I think at the time I really took it in my stride. I was just like, oh, well, I'm not doing that. I'll do something else.
Yep.
I think when you're young, you're so flexible and things change and you just roll with it. And then as you get older, I think it's harder to switch course and you really lament and rue things. Whereas when you're, I don't know, 16, you're like, but okay, well, I'm going to live forever. So that's fine. I think it's when
True.
you get in your 30s, you're like, oh, what happened there? I could have been a professional dancer, and I think it was more sad to look back on. Whereas at the time, nothing really mattered that much,
Oh,
You're
so you're
just like,
just
okay,
like,
okay,
thanks for the
next thing.
experience. Move on.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't affect me at the time. And then it was sort of afterwards, I was started missing it. And then you kind of go, when you're trying to make career choices and stuff, then you kind of go, oh, I had a path there and I've abandoned it. And it's like I did university, so I did you meant to do a 3-year course, and I quit 2 years, 8 months in. And my parents were like, what are you doing? Just finish the course. I was like, I don't want to do it. They're like, just finish it. And at the time I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I've changed my mind. In hindsight, should have just finished the course. But instead I quit, and then I went to a different university and did another year. It was pointless. It was a waste of time. It was a waste of money. But
But,
at the
wh-
time was just like, yeah. Quit. Next.
but was it a waste of time? Did you get like your learnings from there and onto the next thing? Like, do you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I managed to, luckily I didn't have to restart the whole course or anything
Yeah.
like that, but it did add an extra year because I could have just finished it and graduated. But then I
True,
took a
but
year
maybe you would
off
have.
and then I went back. So overall it took like 5 years. Why have I done this?
What did you study?
So I did the first course was called Performance and Cultural Industries. Yeah.
Interesting. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds
No, I
interesting.
don't. I've got no idea. I don't know what it's equipped me for, but it's not acting. It's not, I think it's kind of like a bit of writing, a bit of performing. It was a lot of live art, like and performance art stuff, which I really didn't expect, but it's really out there kind of weird performancey stuff.
Do you think any of it has helped for you in your career?
Yeah, it must have. I think I'm definitely more open to mad ideas and going with stuff. If someone's like, "Hey, what about this?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, that's definitely less intimidating." There was a lot of nudity and
what university?
Yeah,
like the students, or they get someone.
They'd get performers to come in, and they were always naked. But then
I'm so confused. I have so many questions.
But then a lot of the exams, like what students were doing, there's definitely nudity in that, which now looking back, you're like, oh, I don't know about that. These are like young people. But there was one exam where it was the year above us, but we were invited to go and watch. And this girl, for her piece, was laid on a table naked.
Oh.
And there were implements next to her. And you were invited to go in the room one at a time and put something in her.
What?
You didn't have to. Like, I went in and was like, oh, no, thank you.
I like how you're like, but I didn't need to. I'm like, yes, but there's 30 steps before that. Like how this was accepted, how this got up on there, how she came up with the idea, how the professor was like, yeah, I'll allow it. Like there's so many.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much stuff. I want to know what marks she got. It would be really hard to literally have people putting things in you and then you're like, oh, I got 60%.
Was it a guy lecturer or a lady lecturer?
Good question. I don't know.
Because I feel like it changes massively depending on that.
It really does.
It's like, yeah, you can lie naked, but I've got a challenge for you. Was that super confronting? Like, I just imagine myself like I'm doing my accounting exam. Oh, by the way, there's going to be a couple of naked people in the background. Don't worry about them. This blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, it was confronting. There was just a lot of that kind of thing. There's a lot of like masturbation. There was a piece I saw where there was a guy who was masturbating. Yeah, I was going to say pretending to, but no, he was masturbating. And then there was another guy at the same time wearing a big nappy.
I got 80%. Like, what did you do? I did something I always do. Good for you, honey. Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, it's difficult to remember like what the point of the piece was. Maybe they were trying to make some political statement or something, but I'm just like, he was wanking. There was a guy in a nappy. It was just, but seeing this stuff really does make you go, oh, okay, well, I guess performance is a broad spectrum and I'm not judgmental about anything that I see.
I'm glad that you're not. I'm not coming from that. I'm coming from the very confused. I had a very like analytical accounting, commerce. This is how it was said.
Yeah.
I'm just very confused about this curriculum. I'm glad that you got learnings. Very proud of you. I'm glad, and we'll talk about how it potentially impacted your comedy. But how all those three things that you got through is mind-boggling. Yeah.
It's crazy. I think the most wacky thing I did was we were meant to write an essay. I think it was like a 5,000 word essay on postmodernism, the art movement. We were learning about how, postmodernists and Dada, they break the rules. They don't play by the rules. It was just like constantly drilled into us, like they think outside the box, And so I was like, well, if I really understood postmodernism, I wouldn't do an essay, would I? So I handed it. There was so this Marcel Duchamp is this artist, and he one of his most famous pieces is this urinal, just an actual urinal that he signed to be like anything can be art.
I love how Brits say urinals. Sorry, but continue.
Urinals, yes. So I was like, well, I can't get hold of one of them. So I bought a children's potty and I signed it and I put it in a box and I handed that in for my essay. And I was like, this is going to blow their minds. Like little pretentious 20-year-old, like, yeah, I get it. And they were like, no, you have to do the essay. I was like, oh, fuck.
Did they give you extra time to do the essay? Because I'm
They
sure
did,
they.
yeah.
That's nice. So that's
Actually, they were like, you can hand this in and that's fine. You will fail. but if this is your submission, that's your submission, and we get what you're trying to do. But you do need to do more. I was like, okay.
I love your uni. I think I had the completely wrong experience. That's so. So, do you find like seeing all these different types of art that it allowed you to think outside of the box, which I think you've been able to do really well? Like, did it give you like a more, as you said, open mind to exploring different ideas?
I think so. I think exposure to stuff, even if all you're doing is learning that you don't like that, like you don't vibe with that stuff, I think it's really important. I think it's really important to consume stuff that you don't like. I quite like watching bad films and stuff just to go, oh, not that.
I agree. I think that's so important. It's also how I make decisions. If someone says do this and I get this like adverse reaction, and I'm like, what? I don't say it, but I'm like, what a stupid idea. I know not to do that. I learn from like the no's when I'm like analyzing.
Yes.
And then like when I watch a movie, because we both do screenwriting, I'll be like, this didn't work, this character arc, and I'll explain it. And then it actually makes, or I feel it makes me a little bit better. And I learn so much from that. Like I learned from what not to. Improv comedy, for example, I learned a lot of things during improv, but seeing different styles as well. I was like, oh, that's great for you, not my style. I can actually go towards this style. And, you know, seeing and experiencing, not that I do it that much, it gave me like, oh, okay, I can do this, but I don't need to do that. And oh, that exists. So it's actually really awesome.
Yeah,
I'm glad
definitely.
that you put it to words.
You're welcome.
So I'm also wondering, because of your, do you call yourself a sketch group as well with the Delightful Sausage?
Yeah.
I got the name mixed up.
Yeah, so we're a double act.
Yep.
But we weirdly we don't really do sketch. We do it sounds wanky, but we do sort of long form narrative. So our shows are just one big story. We wish we were talented enough to do sketch, but we're not. We just write one story. So we're often referred to as sketch. But technically, if we're gonna get technical,
I think it's important. Because I saw your show. I forget the gentleman's name. Is it Chris?
Chris, yeah.
Chris, hilarious. But then when I was looking, everyone's calling it sketch. I'm like, I don't think that's sketch, but I don't know what the name is. Anyway, hilarious. But you also feel like because it's unique, and we'll talk about how you got into it, that, you know, potentially from like university, like, you know, trying different things, because that's probably something that you probably didn't think you would do. And then you've embraced it and it's been so great.
Yeah, definitely. It's so the Delightful Sausage really scratches a different itch to my stand-up. So my stand-up's really, I would say, hopefully sort of relatable and confessional and accessible. You know, it's easy to get on board with, I hope. Whereas the Delightful Sausage is really peculiar and odd and really mucky and filthy. And it's what's really good is I never have an idea and go, oh, should I keep that for myself or should that be for the sausage? Because no idea would fit in either. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if we have a sausage idea, it's always going to be in the sausage. It's never going to.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I know. It's so daft.
That was the question I was about to ask, which is, I'm glad you said that. Is it like funny now that you came up with this name? You can tell me how. I think you came up with it during breakfast or something, but now you're like, I guess that's the name, and it's been, I don't know how many years now, like that's the name, and this is a sausage idea.
Yeah, we never ever assumed it would take off. It was meant to just be, we needed a name for a comedy night that we were putting on just locally, and you know, we thought it might run for a few weeks. So we're like, what should we call it? Oh, I don't know. His now wife had just cooked us a lovely breakfast and he described the sausages. That was a delightful sausage. And we're like, oh, let's just say that. And we start running this night. And initially, it was all meat themed. and one of us would dress as a butcher and one of us would dress as a sausage. It was peculiar. This is definitely like inspired definitely from university, where it's like weird stuff, you know, a bit avant-garde if you want to be pretentious. And we were just doing like crazy stuff, and then we'd take it in turns to be the sausage and the butcher. And then gradually he didn't want to be the sausage, so I was just in this sausage costume every week. And then he stopped even dressing as the butcher, and he'd have his nicest clothes on. And then for the first 3 years of us performing, he would wear whatever he wanted, and I would be in this horrible, horrible hot dog costume, and we didn't reference it. So we'd just be doing our little double act thing, and we wouldn't mention the hot dog costume, and we thought that was really funny.
Unbelievably funny.
Very confusing for a lot of people.
Well, you just have some like inverted commas normal guy and then some lady just wearing a sausage. It's so funny on so many levels, but also the fact that you don't bring it up. Like there are people in your shows who would be thinking about it till this day if they haven't seen you again. You're like, why was she wearing the sausage? Yeah. Like that is something where you've like planted in their subconscious. Great marketing, by the way. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, so we did that for years and years. And then we were writing a show for Edinburgh Festival, and I was like, hey, I think I shouldn't be in the sausage costume for this. I think we should both be wearing costumes that make sense for the show. And Chris was like, whoa, 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 whoa. People will lose their minds if you're not in the sausage costume. I was like, I don't think they will. And he was like, it's the brand. But we did it. We got rid of the sausage costume. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody noticed. And I was like, oh my God, I've been sweating in this nylon polyester sausage costume for years. And I took it off and nobody noticed.
I love that. I also love how Chris is a sneaky genius. Like he probably had planned, like he'd done different steps. And then he's just, What was your thoughts when you first saw him just dressed normally and you're stuck in this, I assume it's like a full piece sausage costume.
Yeah, it really is. It was so hot. Yeah, we had words. I'd be like, look, mate, you can't just, this can't happen. But he'd be like, oh, look at this. I've got a lovely new shirt from Uniqlo. I was like, yeah, it looks good, sure. And then I just sort of very quickly was like, okay, well, this is the way it's going to be. I'm the sausage lady. And people would say that, you know, if they'd seen the show and were walking around, they'd be like, oh my God, the sausage lady. I'm like, oh God, if someone's overhearing that, it sounds like I'm some sort of porn star or something. The sausage lady. Oh God. Hi. Thanks for coming. Can't say that.
I like how he tried to brand you as this as well. So, okay, there's so many questions. That is so great. I believe you also did a photo shoot where he was dressed normally as well and you were in a sausage costume as well. So then you had further on top of the branding, but you've got all of your promo stuff, which is like he's just sounding funnier and smarter as this goes on.
He's a funny guy. He's a cheeky guy. He's a funny guy.
And so I want to hear about your relationship because you're also doing stand-up and we'll quickly get into how you started stand-up. I know that's everyone's favorite question. But how you meet him through his wife and then she gets pregnant. So you join with him, which you have different styles of comedy. So why did you even say yes to saying like, I'll give this a go?
Yeah, well, so I was in a double act with his wife. And I'd never met Chris or seen his comedy. And she was like, will you come and watch my boyfriend's show, his work in progress? He's not sold any tickets. And the show's tonight. Could you just like come and sit in the audience? And I was dead against it. And I was like, I don't want to see your boyfriend's shit show. She's like, please. It's not, you like, maybe it sold like 4 tickets. I was like, oh God. And I went, and it was above a pub in London called the Hen and Chickens, and sat down. This weird boy gets his PowerPoint presentation out. He does this. His show was called Welcome to Tiddleminster, and it was a fake timeshare presentation for this non-existent place.
That's a good idea.
I was like, it's a really good idea. But as soon as he got his PowerPoint out, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be wank. Oh, God. And then I watched the show with maybe like 8 other people. And it was only a work in progress, but afterwards I said to Nicola, his partner, I was like, this is really awkward, but I think your boyfriend is my favorite comedian. I saw that show and I was like, this is incredible. I thought he was so funny. I think he's like just one of the funniest guys on the planet. He's so naturally funny, but his brain is odd. And so he puts things together that just really take you by surprise.
Nice.
And so when Nicola was pregnant, and Chris was like, hey, do you want to do stuff together then? I was like, yeah. Yeah, I do. I'd love that. So then the Delightful Sausage, the night was born. We weren't initially in a double act. We just started running a night together. And then we was comparing it together and we were like, this is fun. And then he was like, hey, let's go to Edinburgh Festival.
Whoa.
And I was like, oh, okay. And we went, and our first show at the Edinburgh Fringe had an audience of one. His name was Colin. Yeah.
That's normal for a lot of people in Edinburgh.
That's really normal. And we were like, oh, have we made a terrible, terrible decision? But we did the whole show. I sweated for the whole hour in a sausage costume to Colin, who wasn't looking. He was reading the Fringe programme by the light of the projector. But we still banged it out. But then by the end of that, things had snowballed a bit, and people, a few people had come and gone, hey, this is really weird. You should go see this thing. And by the end, we were sort of selling out, and
wow,
it felt like a real classic Fringe experience where you start with nothing, but by the end, you're having a nice time.
That is so rare, and I'm glad that you had that. I'm glad that you kept on going with it as well. Yeah. But also, it's interesting because when you first meet him, you said you're running comedy nights together. So I assume you're not actually together. And then
yes, exactly.
What brought like the merge of the two together? Like whose idea was to go, why don't we do like a double act?
It was Chris's idea. I remember the moment he suggested it because we were both driving. Well, he just passed his driving test, and the man has a lot of qualities. Driving is not one of them. He's never been a good driver. He's very nervous. And he was driving us to Liverpool to do a gig where we were both just doing stand-up sets. But he was driving us. We were on the motorway and he was like, hey, I think we should, he's like, can I bring something up? I think we should be in a double act and we should do a show together. And because he was so nervous at driving and we were on the motorway, I felt like I had to say yes, otherwise we'd probably crash and die. So I was like, yeah, definitely, mate. Just keep your eye on the road.
Oh, wow.
You'll do whatever you want. Just keep calm. Keep your eyes on the road.
Meanwhile, he's actually a really good driver. He was just doing that to intimidate you. I told you, he's a comedy genius. He's been planning this.
Genius.
Was he ever like, well, my wife did it this way? Or was it once the wife left, there was no mention of her? She was dead to him. It was only Amy in his eyes.
I think he's kind of glad that Nicola doesn't do stand-up anymore, because I think it would be she was very good. I think he's kind of glad to have her on the bench,
Yeah.
Not taking the limelight. He's the star of the family now. He doesn't have to share the spotlight.
Yeah, okay. And then because you guys have different comedy styles, was it hard to kind of come up with decision making? Like how did that work, or like conflict resolution and that type of stuff?
It actually works brilliantly. I think that's why we've been together so long, because we're so different, but complement each other so completely. Like we're not both, we're not too similar where we're coming up with similar ideas and it's like, which one's it going to be? I think I'm very much big picture and he's very much tiny detail. And we kind of work at it from both ends and we meet in the middle. And touch wood, but there's very, very little conflict, which is kind of crazy. But I think it's because we are so different. But we always say that we sort of try to never mention this, but I think it is true. So we both are neurodivergent. So I've been diagnosed with ADHD. He hasn't been diagnosed, but I have never met anyone who's more riddled with it than him. Yep. But so we're both sort of driven by this anxiety and this pressured work ethic, and we're both really good in stressful situations, but we just deal with our anxiety differently. And when both of our working methods collide, it actually makes like one good person. Do you know what I mean? So it's like,
It just like works. Oops.
yeah. So everything I really struggle with, he's fantastic at. And things that he really struggles with, I'm good at. So when we come together, we make one functioning adult. So it's really helpful.
That's so great that like your weaknesses are his strengths and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's so great
Yeah.
that you had that. And did you ever think at one stage, I don't want to talk about money, but at one stage, I'm not sure if it's still the same now, it became your main source of income. Isn't that like crazy through, something that you just tried, you were trying to play and have fun.
100%.
And then, yeah.
Yeah. I still really struggle believing that what I'm doing is a job.
Yeah.
When you're like talking about moths or cum with your friend and you're like, we're getting paid for this.
Yeah.
How's this a thing? Yeah. It's the dream, the absolute dream.
And because you do so many things, you're across everything, whether it's your own stuff, comedy, writing, your podcast, and acting as well. How do you balance the time? Because I don't know anything about him, but I assume because you're pulled in so many different directions. How on earth can you balance that as well?
Well, this is the real tricky bit. It's hell. It's really, really hard. Chris is very understanding and very forgiving, and we just cram stuff in when we can. So we've just written a second series of a BBC radio show. And
what's that called?
It's called Icklewick FM. And it's like a mock radio station in a small northern rural community, and lots of characters and things like that. And we're really proud of it. But the way that we could do that, the only kind of way we could do it is if we blocked off a few days and we went literally to a bunker in the UK's only desert, and it's literally near a nuclear power station.
That's so crazy in a cool way.
This is very sausage. This is very like where our characters and personas are just us,
Yep.
So we went, we locked ourselves in this bunker for a few days and just had to do that and nothing else to get it done. And then we recorded it. And then since then, Chris has been so good at doing all the details, putting extra work in when I'm flitting about here, there, and everywhere. And he really shoulders a lot of the sausage burden.
Such a good sentence.
And I'm so grateful for it. But he's just so patient with me saying, oh, I can't be at the meeting because I've got to do this, or I've got to do that, or I'm actually on a train, or I've got to fly here. But Chris is very busy as well, doing his own stuff. But he's very good at, shouldering the sausage burden is the best way to put it. But writing has always been tricky because we don't live in the same part of the country. So I live in London, which is South England, and he lives right near Scotland. So basically as north of England as you can get. So if we were to drive it, it's like 8 hours, something like that. So it's really hard for us to spend time together. So it's often written on Zoom. We've developed habits that are maybe quite odd, but sometimes if I'm finding things a bit overwhelming, if I'm a bit overstretched, if I'm a bit stressed, I suppose, the thing that makes me have good ideas is being in the bath. So now and again, it's like video off.
Yeah.
We'll have the meeting in the bath, or video on, and I'll be sat in the bath in my clothes.
I feel like he's like your work wife. Like he's probably seen it all. Like he wouldn't even
100%.
notice. He wouldn't
he
like even
wouldn't.
that. The bath is a
Yeah.
great idea. I do that as well. Did I also hear that when you were pitching, I could be wrong, you were pitching a show where you would like move into like him and his wife's house and you were going to do a show of
Yeah.
all the characters? You should do that in real life, and then you've actually got the learned experience.
I think that would be great. If I ever stay with them, it's such a joy. But the only problem is because I get to see his wife infrequently now. If it's us three together, I just kind of want to talk to Nicola because Chris is he's very organized and his work ethic is incredible. But I would say 99% of the time wants to talk about work.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, like with dancing, it's like, I want to talk about crisps and boys and booze with Nicola. It's like I want to kiss this boy. But Chris is like, we need to get this treatment done, and I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I want to have gin and talk about boys.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, I've got even more questions. So you've also done a lot of writing as well, and you're pitching shows as well. When they reject an idea like that, because as I said, I do screenwriting. I've had some successes. I've had a lot of rejections. And, at the start, it really hurts. It sounds like because you're across so many things, it doesn't hurt as much. But potentially at the start when you're pitching this show, does it hurt when they say no?
Yeah, of course it does. It hurts more weirdly when it's a sausage thing because I feel Chris's disappointment as well. And I think one of my skills is in the double act is like, I'm very chilled out. I can be very Chris is more tightly wound, but in a good way. He's like the dynamo that keeps us going. And I'm very much, I can relax us. So if we're like nervous before going on stage or something, Chris is the one that's freaking out. And I'm the one that's like, we're going to be fine. I'm too far that way. So if I'm on my own, I'm too relaxed because I'm like, it'll be fine. I miss deadlines. Yeah. I'm sloppy. I don't get things done. Whereas Chris is like too tightly wound and overstresses about things. And, so between us, it's great. But then the closest we've got, so the first time we were nominated at Edinburgh Festival, we had a show, we had an idea for a show based on that the BBC took so far. We were so close to getting a series. We'd done a taster, we'd filmed a taster, we'd written the script. Everyone was like, yep. And then the two people that were commissioning it left. And then a new commissioner came in and was like, sorry, what is this? We were like, no. That really stung. I think the closer you get, the more it stings.
That's like close. That's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Because, not only are you disappointed, but you said you're also taking on Chris's stuff as well. How do you, like a lot of Chris, but like what else do you do to kind of like cope or manage or on to the next one?
Yeah. So I probably have some, what's it called? Toxic positivity. So I'll be like, it's okay. We're going to do it again. We'll start again. Don't worry. And Chris is probably has toxic realism. We're both toxic. Chris will be like, this is fucked. It's never going to happen. We should quit. Chris thinks we should disband the sausage. I don't know, every few months. He's like, it's over. Let's leave it. And then I'll be like, do you really want to do it? And he's like, no, I definitely want to carry on with the sausage. And it's like, okay. So he probably was like, well, that was our one shot. Let's leave it. And I'm like, we'll pitch again tomorrow. And then somewhere in the middle is the right thing to do. Give it a break, go back with a new idea. Keep on trying.
And I think that's a huge credit because not many people realize, like when you put your time and energy, especially into writing, I feel like it's very different. There's just so much that goes into it. But also, talking about that mock radio show, I've already forgotten the name, sorry. And that's with the Delightful Sausage as well. Like that comes, like you wouldn't, like all that pain, you could have just said no, and then you get something like that. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's great. And with the radio show, it's it was weirdly commissioned by BBC TV, and they gave us the radio show as like a pilot for TV. So we've done one series and it went really well, and we were like, here it comes, a little TV show coming our way. And they were like, we've got big news. I'm like, here we go. And they're like, would you like a second radio series? And we're like, Yeah, I mean, we'd love that. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I
But
like that though.
maybe it'll translate one day to telly. Who knows?
At least you've got like the proof, like you've at least got something
Yeah.
out there. I know all I want, like I've spoken about this 100 times, so I won't bore everyone, but I had a TV developmental deal from an LA production company with like big actors. And I thought I'm gonna have Netflix shows. It's gonna be 5 seasons, and then I'm gonna do the other 10 screenplays. I'm like projecting in the future, and it didn't work out. Thank God, there were significant red flags and lawyers involved, and they're like, I'm sure you've had these experiences, but I at the time was like, oh, I'm coming Mr. Netflix because I'm going to have 5 seasons in my show. And I'm very grateful it didn't work out. It was extremely stressful and blah, 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 blah. But now, I've got the confidence. I know I can write. Never want to go through that because it was so fucked up. But I feel like you've got that as well. You talk about your toxic
Yeah.
positivity, but you've actually been positive and used that for good. So tell me your secrets.
Do you know what? I think my good attitude probably comes from something quite negative in that I don't genuinely in my heart of hearts believe I deserve anything. So
I'm
when it
surprised.
doesn't
You did so
happen,
much good stuff.
but I'm all like it. So me and Chris were from like a very working class background, and we have um no one in our families has ever done anything like this. We don't know anyone who's a writer or an actor or anything like that. So we are constantly shocked, and I think it's a really good thing.
Hmm.
But I guess it's kind of, I think if you've got really low self-esteem, everything's brilliant when something good happens. But
Oh,
if
interesting.
I have like friends in the industry now who've maybe they've been like privately educated or have gone to like a fantastic university or have celebrity parents or are just wealthy and have had a very different life experience. So they kind of, and they're brilliant and they should be getting stuff, but I think they're like, oh, I should get I should be able to write for TV or something.
Yeah.
Whereas I genuinely think, and me and Chris have this conversation all the time, that even though we've been nominated, at Edinburgh a few times now,
Which is awesome.
we still have no like confidence, and we always go, God, if we only had the confidence of a brand new posh sketch group, you know what I mean, who've
Yeah.
achieved nothing, but they're so confident, and I think confidence is really helpful, and I think it gets you really far. But I think you're happier if you've got absolutely no self-esteem. And then every time someone's like, hey, would you like £20 to do this? You're like, fuck, yes, that's amazing. So yeah, weirdly, maybe I've been doing too much therapy recently, but I think the toxic positivity and my good attitude comes from an inherent lack of self-belief.
That's so interesting. I want to challenge you on that because one, I'm really interested by this. It sounds like you enjoy the wins more than the average person. It's
Mm,
just like when something great happens, you're able to really enjoy it. And perhaps like when you come, one, not you, but when one comes from like entitlement, they're like, yeah, obviously, like this is how it's supposed to be. So you
yeah.
actually got like more of like a gratitude outlook, which I think is really healthy. But also, I challenge you. And I know your show, the one that you're touring in Melbourne, and people check it out if you're in Melbourne. They're in the episode notes, and we'll talk about the show as well. But you also talk about self-esteem as well. But I would imagine,
Mm,
and I know there's layers, and I'm sure you
yeah.
talk about this, but if someone truly had low self-esteem, they wouldn't be able to thrive in all of these elements, even just getting up on stage, doing all of the things that you've done, the highs and the lows, comedy, the bombs. You would have had so many rooms full of like less than like 5 people. You would have had so many bad shows, and that's every single comedian in the world, and you still get up. You can't have that low of self-esteem or confidence. So
I think you
challenge me.
can. I
Oh,
think you can because I think you can accept the failures easier because you're like, of course, this is what I expected, of course. So if someone says no to you, you're not like, oh fuck. You're like, yeah, obviously. I'm dog shit.
Interesting.
Of course it's gone like that. But so in my show, I talk about um learning the difference because I literally only learned this last year. I didn't know there was a difference between confidence and self-esteem. So I have confidence. So I have enough confidence to get on stage. I have enough confidence to talk to people. I have enough confidence to at least act like I belong in this room. But the self-esteem, which is like the layer below that, is going, you're a dickhead, Amy. You're an imposter. You can't do this. It would be mad if they let you do this. But the confidence, the sort of outer layer, I've got heaps of. So
Interesting.
do you know what I mean? So I've got the confidence to get up on stage,
Yeah.
but I don't have the self-esteem to believe um people should like it.
So you surprised, like when you have sold out shows and I
Yeah.
think you got a double nomination in the 1 year in Edinburgh, which no one has ever done. So clearly
Yeah.
you're onto something. Not that we need external validation, but it certainly helps. Were you just like, nah, that's the wrong Amy or it's a typo? Like, what were you thinking? Like, can you feel?
Yeah.
And we're like, no.
Genuinely like, that's mad. Are you sure? And there's so for the show that I'm doing in Melbourne, it's the one that won the comedy award. And we was at the award ceremony and I was so sure because I'd seen a lot of the other shows that were nominated and I know all the performers and I think they're fantastic. So I was so delighted to be nominated, but I genuinely, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, really thought it had nothing to do with me. So I went to the awards, was drinking champagne because I was like, oh, this is just a great day. I don't have to get up and do a speech. I don't have to do anything. And I think someone from my agent or a friend or someone was filming when they announced it and they put the camera on me and you can see me like the first thing I say when they say my name is I don't like it. And then I try and get Chris to come on stage with me because I'm like, this is wrong. Like this, there's literally no way. And I get up and there's I regret this because the picture that they used in all the press of me accepting the award, my face looks like I've seen a car accident. Like I'm not, I look like kind of horrified. Like I'm so in shock. I look confused and baffled. And I wish I had a nicer press image because it was like one of the greatest moments of my life.
Yeah.
But I was just like, no, they get this is like when what was the award ceremony when they said La La Land had won and they hadn't, and it just felt like something's wrong here. They've just read it in alphabetical order, and something's happened. Like this isn't right. Yeah, it was absolutely. It was genuinely really bonkers. Oh, and then straight afterwards, I was being interviewed by Mark Watson, who's a comedian who comes to Melbourne a lot. You probably know him.
Yep.
And he even said he was like, oh, a lot of people when they accept an award are like, oh, it's such a shock. I can't believe it. But you can see he was like, you looked
Yeah.
kind of mortified. He's like, I've never seen anyone that genuinely shocked. And I kind of wish I had played it a bit cooler.
Well, I'm glad that you can never really plan for these moments. Like, unlike the Oscars or whatever they're called now.
Yeah.
I like, oh, I never saw this coming. And then they put their glasses on, pull out like the scrolls from the Dead Sea and they read it. It's like, oh, I had no idea. Where did this come from? So I get what you're saying. I know that you might have like regrets in that moment, but have you been able to enjoy it and see, you know what, you're worthy, you're deserving. People come and pay money to see your shows.
No, it's mad. Yeah, I feel like the luckiest person in the entire world. Like I'm so lucky, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It didn't sink in for ages. A comedian called Tim Key, who I'm sure you know, he comes to Melbourne a bit. He's fantastic. He's like one of my favorite comedians, and he won the award years ago, and he was so good, and he was just like, it won't hit you for a bit, but you'll have a really nice train home, like a train ride home where you're sat and you're like leaving Edinburgh and letting it sink in. And he was right. You just sort of sit and go, oh my God, that is a thing to tick off the list that I never ever thought I would. Yeah, amazing.
I'm
Amazing.
I'm so happy you had that. And do you think that has helped your self-esteem?
It must have done, surely. I think, yeah, it must have done. It's got to have done. I don't, it's hard to know, isn't it, how your self-esteem's doing, because you don't know how you'd feel if you hadn't have won it. I don't know. It must have done. I'm not, I don't think I'm, I don't think I'm like shit. I
Good.
know I must be all right at it.
Yeah.
But I think it's more that like, yeah, I'm always just so chuffed that like, I just can't believe that people come and have a nice time. And I'm basically just like, I've got real competition winner energy, like when someone's on a game show and they're like, oh, I've had a lovely day. Thanks for having me. I'm just delighted constantly.
That's like such a nice energy to be around. Like I know it sounds like a bit religious and I'm not, but like that like grateful energy is so empowering.
Yeah.
Like just like thanks so much. Like people feel it, they see it, it's contagious, and it helps people if they're in a mood. Just like I love that. I think that's part of me. That's like the most empowering and inspiring thing. So I'm glad that you have that, that outlook. And does there anything that helps with the self-esteem and the confidence, or is it a journey?
Um, I think it's a journey, but I also think like just remembering that nobody really cares. Again, I think all my positivity comes from negativity, but nobody really cares that much about you. Nobody's looking. Just have fun, because nobody really. The only person that's thinking about am I good enough is yourself. Nobody else is worrying about it, so just crack on. You know.
I I agree 100%. And it's so interesting. We'll give a bit of the how you started. You were dating a guy and you didn't think he was very good at comedy and you saw his show, so you secretly booked to do a comedy show, which is so funny. Well, I've actually got a question on that. Were you thinking with this guy, like you see his comedy, was it like an ick being like, you are so bad at the thing that you love? Like, what were you like, I can't be with this guy, like you suck. What were you thinking? Because you obviously he was so bad that it inspired you to realize that you could be so much better than him.
Um, yeah, weirdly, it wasn't like an ick moment. It was more like a light bulb moment of going, oh, you don't have to be brilliant to get up there. You can just get up there. Um, but he was funny off stage. That's why I was with him. He was really funny off
It's like he's
stage.
nice where it counts.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, this is great. But then, yeah, didn't go to a lot of his gigs because it was tough to sit there and think, oh, I've got to have sex with him later. And look, everyone hates him.
What was some of the excuses like, oh, I've got that thing, or I've got an appointment the next week,
Yeah,
or I've got a headache, where you're starting to blend the
yeah,
excuses?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, just anything to get out of it. Um, but yeah, I literally owe him my entire career, because if he'd have been good, I would have been like, oh, I can't do that. So thank God he was bad.
That's
Thank
so
God he
crazy.
was absolute crap.
So you do that, you secretly enter, and then I believe
Yeah.
your fourth gig, you perform at Leicester Square or something like that.
Yeah, so that's one of London's best comedy venues. It's this huge theatre. Well, not huge, but it's I think like 500 seats or something,
Oh,
which is a
wow.
lot for like your fourth gig. But I genuinely was like, well, this is what every gig will be from now on. I only play 500 seaters,
Yeah.
and then quickly humbled. You're like, okay, I play 10 seaters and they're half full. Okay, I'll
Yep.
work my way up. I get it. Um, but yeah, that was incredible. I loved that. It was just the first gig even was just in a pub, and it was maybe like 20 people, something like that. But as soon as I was so nervous. I've never felt nerves. Like I had a plan for if I passed out. Like I'd never been that scared in my life. But within about 2 minutes of being on stage, I was just like, oh, this is fun.
It's very, not that I'm a comedian by any means, but when I've gone to open mics and you can see when the nerves really hit them. And I know you said it like took 2 minutes, but I've seen people fully shake on stage
Yeah.
and no judgment whatsoever. It can be very scary, but you cannot like, you can't enjoy the show when you see someone literally like shitting their
No,
pants. How did you
no.
kind of like deal with the nerves? Like, were you able to like mask it? Because it can be very terrifying.
Um, I know for that first gig, I kept my coat on because I was like, if it goes really badly, I'm just going to run. I'm going to run off the stage, out the door. Nobody knows I'm here. I think that was really good for the nerves, was not inviting anyone that I knew.
Yeah.
Because if there was someone in the audience you have to look in the eye afterwards. The only time I get nervous, no, the only time I get really nervous is when there's people in the audience that I know.
Mm.
If it's, 1,000 strangers, they don't know my insecurities. I can go on there and do whatever. If there's 998 strangers and two friends, I'm like, oh God, oh, what are they going to think? What if it doesn't go well? I have to see them afterwards. They're going to think I'm rubbish. Then, I just, yeah, in an ideal world, you just never do comedy to people that you know or respect. As in, like, I don't mean that you don't respect the audience. I mean, like,
I get you.
people that you, like comedians that you might not know as friends, but you respect, like your heroes. Sometimes it's fantastic when they come, but then you're like, oh my God, I've got to do my show to James Acaster, or, you're like, oh God, fuck.
Just don't tell us. Just you can come after the show. I don't want to know that you're
Yes.
there. So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
helps with that?
Good question. Um, I never look at them. I try and, if I know they're coming, I always have a peep at the audience from the wings and have a little look and see where they're sat. So I never make direct eye contact because that's too scary.
Yep.
So if you're ever sat near my parents or my friends or a comedian that I really respect, I will not be looking in your direction. You will
That's
be
smart.
ignored because I
And
just can't. um,
interesting.
yeah, I take a few deep breaths and then I try and like, somebody once said that nerves and excitement are very similar in the body and you've got to try and, so I try and, I don't know if it works. I'll backstage, I'm always doing a little dance, like to the pre-show music. I'll just try and dance and try and get into like party zone.
I
Like,
love that. It's like
I'm
I know
actually
it's
having
not.
fun.
Yeah, that's
I'm having
like.
fun.
Well, I know it's not the same whatsoever. But like dogs, they shake when they go through stress, but they're
Yeah.
still moving things, and so you're moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. Don't look at, so they're my three tips. Don't look scary people in the eye. Couple of deep breaths, have a little dance. You'll be grand.
Very good advice. And then what about when family come? Is it the same, or you don't care as much?
Oh no, I care more. But luckily, my parents have been to see so much now that I'm a bit desensitized to it. But
Yeah.
I just have to pretend they're not there. I used to mention that they were in the audience, but then if you're doing a rude bit, everyone's like, "Oh, your
Oh yeah.
mum's here." So now I just have to pretend that they're not there.
What was it like the first time where you're doing a rude bit and your parents are hearing it for the first time? Because like I couldn't
It's
do it.
hell. It's hell. It's hell. You feel yourself blushing. You start like retracting into yourself, mumbling, not looking at the audience, and you're like, "Oh God." Um, but you just have to get used to it. It's awful. It's awful. I don't swear in front of my parents, but then on stage, I'll swear. It's like, oh, they've been so good. They're like, we don't talk about it, but they're just like, that was a good show. You're like, okay, thank you.
It's like I really
Sorry
liked
about
minute
sorry about all that blowjob stuff.
I really liked minute 1 to 10 and then 40 to 60. We won't talk about the in between bit.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're so supportive. And I also, what I find really interesting, I'll just skim through it because you got a really interesting life. that when you stopped comedy for a bit, I think you moved to London and then you had like 4 jobs and then you were
Yeah.
too busy to do comedy at the time. So what was going on at that time?
Yes. So London's very expensive, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Um, so comedy was going pretty well. I was gigging a lot in London. So I was like, I'll move down, and then to pay the rent, I was working in the box office of a comedy club. I was working at Camden Market on the weekends. I was working at Leicester Square Theatre where I'd done the competition. I was working behind the bar. And and I was working at Christmas. I was working at this thing called Winter Wonderland, which was
That's a
hell.
box.
It was all hell. It's just like an outside event with like ice skating and all of this stuff. And I was selling jewelry, bad jewelry. Oh, it was just also bad, but it basically meant I was getting up, going to work to open like a market stall at 6 or 7 a.m., working during the day, and then I'd go and work at the theatre on the night. And every combination of days was like 6 a.m. to midnight. And it's like, well, I can't gig. There's no time to gig. I'm just paying rent. So then I moved back because I was like, I could not do comedy anywhere in the UK. I don't have to be in London.
Yeah.
And then I moved back again 5 years ago. And it was the right time. I moved too early before.
Yeah. Well, it would have been an impossible balance because one, not only do you not have the time, but also your energy. And if all of your stress is going to rent and food and all of that stuff, it can take away from the creative process as well.
Oh my God, absolutely. You can't write when you're crying on the tube home because you're so tired. You can't be like, oh, what's funny about airline food? You know,
Because you go into like survival mode.
Yeah.
And also, that's
Yeah.
6 hours tops. Because I know there were some times where you were having like half an hour sleep or an hour sleep as well. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how you did that at that stage.
Yeah, it's crazy. But you can do stuff like that when you're young. I couldn't do that now. I'm like really crabby if it's like, I only had 7.5 hours.
I bring, and I've never brought this up before, but I feel this is a safe place. I bring a pillow with me when I go to hotels. I cannot do a bad pillow anymore. I've become my neck can't handle it. And I'm like, the fact that I could do some of the stuff like you mentioned, I couldn't do it now. No, not
Yeah, but you just can't. I used to work at festivals, litter picking. And I'd go from music festival to music festival and would do a whole summer just camping and litter picking to get the tickets for the festivals. I cannot do one night camping now. I cannot do it, and I will not do it. I don't know what's happened. I'm not that person. I just can't do it now. I've evolved. I need comfy. Well, I'm old. That's what it is. I need comfy things. I need warmth. I need my soft bed. I need the right pillow. And really, the way I get to sleep is it's like a scientific experiment every night. So I've got my heated blanket. Then I've got a weighted blanket. So a heated blanket underneath, weighted blanket on top. Then I've got some sort of noise, like some sort of white noise, or I need some sort of noise to go to sleep. And I've recently got this vibrating eye mask.
Oh, it vibrates. I have not heard about this. It
massages your head and your eyes. I don't know what it's meant to do, but it does send me to sleep. So without all of them things, I just lay awake. There's no way I'm camping. I'm the opposite of camping now.
I'm surprised you don't have like one of those oxygen machines as well.
I know, like in an iron lung. I'm just absolutely, horrendous. And single. Because if I was doing this next to someone, I've also got a pregnancy pillow, and I'm not pregnant and never have been pregnant, but a pregnancy pillow that's like a horseshoe shape, like a long horseshoe shape. And I sort of lay in that and I can sort of cuddle that and put my knee on it. It's a real balancing act to do exactly the right things for me to sleep, which is insane. it's bonkers. I feel like I've spoilt myself. I'm like a sort of pedigree dog. I'm like a poodle. I need to just be, I want to be the person that can sleep in a tent for 2 months, but I'm not.
I think we're on the same page there. I've also got a good system, and I like my own space. I'm married and I love my own space.
Correct.
And we should normalize having our own space. I remember the first time, sometimes I sleep in the other room because I want to, not because I've been kicked out.
Well
And people are
done.
like, why are you doing that? I'm like, do you know how good it is to sleep by yourself? It's amazing. And they're like, is everything okay? I'm like, this is the happiest we've ever been. Me not being there is a great thing. I love it. I think it's not natural.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that.
2 more things I want to bring up before we do a rapid fire segment. And we were talking off air, and this will lead into a comedy show, which I want to hear a little bit more about as well. We've said your resume at the start. You're killing it. You're doing really, really well. You are now going to be on a Netflix show. Yeah, you said the press release came out.
Yeah.
That is very exciting. What's that feeling like being a part of you don't need to give all the details, but how do you feel about the whole process? You got it, acting, being in that crew and all of that stuff.
Oh, it's so cool. It's amazing. So I'm working with like proper actors, like proper actual actors who are so good. On my first day on set, so I'm a detective, which is so cool, like badass detective. And on my first day, I got to act opposite someone that I've been watching since being a kid, and just watching him just nail it, take after take after take. I just couldn't believe it. And then afterwards, I probably shouldn't have said this, but afterwards I went up to him and I was like, hey, you're so good at acting. And he was like, he's like a British treasure. And he looked at me like, he was very kind. He's a very sweet man, but he was just like, yeah, obviously. I was just like, but you're so good.
I like that confidence. And he's like, I'm like, obviously, like, of course I am. He
didn't say that out loud, but the vibe was like, why are you telling me this? We're meant to be like peers, we were just in a scene together. I was like, yeah, I'll try and be cooler from now on. But it's so cool.
Like,
so cool. Sitting in a trailer, that hasn't lost its novelty. That's so exciting.
Your own trailer.
I've got a trailer. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I love it so much. I get to go into hair and makeup every morning, and I just turn up looking like an egg, and they de-egg me. It's so good. Somebody tells me what to wear. Somebody tells me what to say. Somebody else tells me where to stand. It's the dream job. No decision making.
I am so happy that you've got that. And is it relaxing for you? Because I know the hours can be intense, but is it like you said, they go there, you have the lines, like you still do a lot, but you don't have to do a lot in terms of the decision making and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's becoming more relaxing. I was very intimidated. In like the first week, I was like, oh my God, there's so many cast and crew, and and it's drama, it's not comedy, so it's really out of my comfort zone. But now I'm sort of getting into the swing of it, and everyone is so nice, and everyone I work with, all the other cast are so nice and supportive. So yeah, I love it. I really love it.
Amazing. I'm positively jealous of you. I'm proud of you. And I know you are very modest. Was acting like more natural for you given all of your experience, or do you feel like you had to start again? I feel like you would have embraced it pretty quickly.
I've done quite a lot of comedy acting, and I've always kind of gone, this is terrible. I was kind of, acting's not that hard. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
But then doing drama acting, I definitely had to be like, oh, I need to really, I've done work on the script, like I take the script and bless you, go through like all of what's my character thinking at this point? Why is this? And I've never done anything like that before. So I think I'm sort of half playing at being a proper actor, but hopefully I feel like my skills are leveling up a bit. And
cool.
a director that I worked with on a comedy thing messaged me and said, "How's it going?" And I messaged him back being like, "Acting's actually really hard." He was like, "Yeah." It's like, okay.
That's so great. Can you imagine you said there, it's like, it's pretty easy. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why it was like gives such a big fuss. Like,
Yeah. What's everyone on about? It's so easy. Why do we give actors awards? It's the easiest job in the world. But got there and
expecting.
was like, "Oh yeah, everyone's really good. It's actually really hard." Okay. Okay, I get
Amazing.
it.
And do you think that also made you a better writer as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it works both ways. I think um everything you do informs everything else you do. So I think when you're acting, you're learning how to write, learning what feels natural in your mouth, what works, you know, how to get into a scene very quickly. Because I think my tendency when I started writing is to overwrite, you know, just I want to know everything, and it's too much, too prescriptive, and I'm learning that you can tell so much from a look.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, that's cut out a page. That's cut out a page of the script. That's great. So I think acting really helps writing. I think writing really helps acting because you kind of go, oh, I see where the writer's coming from here. I see what they want to get across in this small line, what needs to hit home. I also dabbled. I directed a short film. I didn't write it, but
Cool.
I got to direct it, and I think directing helps acting. I think it helps writing. I think everything that you do within the industry can only help like inform other stuff. And I'm also, while I'm on set, I'm trying to sort of absorb the knowledge of, and I can't because I don't know what anyone's talking about, but I'm trying to at least become literate in, you know, lighting and sound, and just trying to,
Oh, cool.
everyone's job is so hard on set. I can't believe anyone does it, but just trying to like learn as much as I can, because I think even knowing about mic placement probably helps you as an actor. I think everything helps everything. Um, so I'm trying to just absorb as much information as I can about like camera lenses and stuff. When they're like, okay, we're going to do a 2 shot and it's going to be on a 70. And I'm like, nope, don't know what any of that is, but let's learn.
I think that's so great. I think it's going to make you better at everything as well. Before we do a very quick rapid fire segment, so your comedy show is coming to Melbourne for the first half of the comedy festival.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for us, but fortunately for you, you will be filming, so you're doing the first half. So people have to check it out. Anything else? Remind me of the name of it and anything else you feel people should need to know.
So the show is called Make Me Look Fit on the Poster, and it's really silly, hopefully really fun, really daft, and then a little bit of sort of heartfelt stuff splattered in there, but nothing too. Hopefully, a lot of particularly women have resonated with it in a way that I'm just so pleased with. But they'll come away and be like, "Oh my god, that thing you said really struck a chord with me," and it's like brilliant. But generally, it's just very silly.
Cool. And it's done very well. So I'm very excited for you to bring it here. And you've never been to Australia before. So I
No,
hope the
I'm so
crowd,
excited. Oh my
that
god.
you will love it. Um, I reckon to wrap up the podcast, we'll do a quick rapid fire segment. So the first thing
Mm.
that springs to mind, but take your time if you need. What did you learn from, and please, if I've said this wrong, please correct it, from black toads?
Oh yeah. So I learned, oh gosh, that's such a good question. So it was basically a little sitcom pilot that I got to write and be in, and I think I learned the thing about getting into a scene quickly. I'd overwritten everything, and you can actually start in the middle of the scene, and everyone knows what's going on. Audiences are smart. That's what I learned. Audiences are clever.
Next big dream or goal?
Um, I'd love my own. It's so scary to say it out loud because it's like looking at the sun. It's too powerful. But I'd love my own sitcom. So that was a little pilot, and maybe it'll get picked up. So we're still
Oh,
waiting. Yeah.
okay.
Oh my god.
The universe is working for you. What would you do if you knew you cannot fail?
Mm. Ice skating.
Or didn't you say that you work near the ice skating? So I feel like you're one step closer.
Yeah.
Any advice you want to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Don't tell anyone and just do it. And then if you fail and you never want to do it again, it's no big deal.
Great advice. I won't comment on them. But last one before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
What is my favorite flavor crisp?
Oh, I'm actually disappointed I did not ask that. And what's your favorite flavor?
It's prawn cocktail.
What?
Prawn cocktail.
That does not exist here. Please explain it to me.
Oh my God. It's delicious. I don't like prawns. I don't even like prawns. Prawn cocktail. It's in a pink packet. It's Walker's. And it's like, so prawn cocktail is quite vinegary. It's not salt and vinegar, but it's like quite vinegary and prawny, I guess. But I don't really like prawns. So, but it's the best. I'll bring some over. For you.
I think you're going to have to. You should probably hand it out to the audience as well, because my mind is blown. It just, that's crazy. I'm sure we're going to have weird flavors. Actually, no, we've got pretty normal flavors here, but I want to just
everyone
record
thinks they've got normal flavors.
No, I don't think so. Based on that, that's probably like your like salt and vinegar. I want to like record you at like the supermarket and you're just looking at the different flavors. You're like, what are these flavors? I'm so excited. Cool. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
So I'm only on Instagram at the moment. And that is at that Amy Gledhill. AMYGLEDHILL at that Amy Gledhill. Because there is another Amy Gledhill who teaches people how to orgasm. Follow her as well for sure, but also follow me.
Have you met her before?
No, but it's my dream.
Oh, but okay, that is a great way to end it. We'll put all of that in the episode notes. Thank you so much. I love your energy. You've got this inspiring, like playful attitude. It's very contagious. And yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So lovely to chat to you. I can't wait to come to Melbourne.
Often in life, we can be so worried about what others think of us and play the mind games where we think everyone is judging us and criticizing us. But Amy explains how sometimes we can be our own toughest critic. But in reality, most people don't care and are simply focusing on themselves. Regardless of all the external noise, Amy encourages us to crack on and have fun. Do the thing you like, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really matters. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. Ignore the critics. Only mediocrity is safe from ridicule. Dare to be different. Dieter von Teese. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.